Hey Army, before this video even begins, I want to ask you something. Have you ever wondered what Jimin from BTS is really like behind the scenes? Not the Jimin standing under the spotlight, not the Jimin dancing flawlessly in front of thousands, but the real Jimin, behind closed doors, when the big cameras aren't rolling. You probably already know how talented and captivating Park Jimin is on stage. But today, we're going to talk about something far deeper than that. Something that made not only ARMY, but even the people who worked directly alongside him, completely break down in tears. This is not gossip. This is not a rumor. This is a sincere confession from a professional makeup artist who once worked with BTS up close and personal. And when you hear what she said about Jimin, you might finally understand why millions of ARMY around the world love this one person with every single piece of their heart. So make sure you're sitting somewhere comfortable, grab some tissues if you need to, because this might just be one of the most emotional videos you'll watch today. When we talk about Jimin, our minds instantly paint a picture. The graceful flow of his hands when he dances, his voice, rich, emotional, and unlike anyone else's, and that smile of his that has the power to brighten anyone's entire day just by existing. But there is one side of Jimin that doesn't always make it to the camera, and that is just how genuinely good he is as a human being. In the Korean entertainment industry, and especially in the world of K-pop, where competition is fierce and pressure never really goes away, the relationship between an idol and their behind-the-scenes team, makeup artists, stylists, production crews, tends to be professional but distant. That's just the norm. That's just how it works. But Jimin, he's different. Shin Sun-ah, a celebrated star florist who collaborated on the music video for Smeraldo Garden Marching Band, shared a surprising story in an early 2025 interview with Cultured magazine. She described how Jimin, in the middle of an exhausting filming session, on a set covered with uncomfortable fake grass, uneven hills across the floor, and dress shoes that made every single step dangerous, never once complained. She painted a picture of Jimin, in between camera tests and vocal practice, taking the time to talk with every single extra on set, from little children to elderly grandparents. He greeted them one by one. He made sure everyone felt comfortable. He made sure no one felt invisible. It was so heartwarming, Shin Sun-ah said, to see Jimin constantly sparking conversations with the kids and adults even while he was busy with everything else. For an idol of Jimin's caliber, with an endless schedule, label pressures, and an industry that demands nothing less than perfection, none of that was required of him. But he did it anyway. Not because a camera was pointed at him, not because anyone asked, but simply because that is who he is. And that story opened the door to an even bigger one, a confession that came directly from a makeup artist who once worked with him. A few years ago, a video began circulating among ARMY and quickly went viral across every major social media platform. It featured a young makeup artist, a professional who had landed what most people would consider the ultimate dream job, working directly with BTS. Think about that for a second. The dream, right? Seeing BTS every single day, being part of the team behind their stunning looks, witnessing firsthand how those legendary performances are built from the ground up. But this girl chose to quit. And the reason why? This is the part that made ARMY around the world completely fall apart. In her honest, courageous video, she admitted she was afraid of falling in love with Jimin. Hold on, this is not your typical love story. This goes so much deeper than that. She explained that every single member of BTS is incredibly kind, respectful, and genuinely grateful to everyone who works with them. As people, they are extraordinary. But when it came to Jimin specifically, she said that Jimin was simply the kindest, the most genuine of them all. Not polite in a formal, obligatory way. Not kind because the cameras were watching. But truly, purely, from the heart. She described how Jimin always greeted her warmly every time she arrived to do her job. How he always said thank you, not as a throwaway phrase, but with real eye contact, as if her work genuinely mattered to him. How he never complained. How he never made anyone feel small. How he never behaved like a superstar who existed on a different plane from everyone else around him. And that was dangerous for her heart. If I kept working with him, she said, I wouldn't be able to stop myself from falling in love. And I couldn't let that happen. So with a heavy heart, walking away from a job that most people could only dream of, she chose to leave. Not because Jimin was difficult. Quite the opposite. Because Jimin was too good. When ARMY heard this story, the response was overwhelming. Thousands of comments flooded the video. People cried. People nodded along, saying, "I completely understand you." Because yes, if simply watching Jimin through a screen is enough to make millions of people fall in love with him, imagine meeting him every single day, feeling his warmth not through a phone screen, but in real life. That is the real Jimin. Not just an idol, but a human being with a heart as wide as the ocean. But the story of Jimin's kindness doesn't end there. If that makeup artist was moved by direct, personal interaction, imagine how deep Jimin's love runs for the millions of ARMY he may never even meet face to face. Let's go back for a moment to November 2024. Jimin was still in the middle of his mandatory military service, 18 months away from the spotlight, away from the stage, away from everything that had defined his life for over a decade. And in the middle of all of that, he won the daesang at the 2024 Mama Awards, the highest honor in Korean music. And do you know what the very first thing he did was? He opened Weverse and wrote a message to ARMY. "ARMY, thank you so much. I'm a soldier and I can't believe I won the daesang. How could you send me a gift like this? I'm so touched," again and again. Just sit with that for a moment. A man in the middle of one of the most demanding chapters of his life, military training, rigid schedules, no stage, no music, still stopped everything to say thank you to the people who voted for him from the other side of the world. He also wrote that during his service, he and Jungkook had been talking about the music they wanted to create when they got out, about the kind of performances they wanted to give. "After leaving the military, I've already been excited about what songs we should sing for you and what kind of performances we should show you." ARMY. Even inside military barracks, perhaps the furthest you can get from the world of entertainment, Jimin's thoughts still drifted back to them. Then came the day every single ARMY had been waiting for. June 11th, 2025. Jimin and Jungkook officially completed their mandatory military service after 18 months as active duty soldiers. Thousands of ARMY had been gathering since early morning at Yongkyon Public Stadium. Fans who had flown in from Portugal, from Brazil, from every corner of the world, just to witness this one moment in history. When Jimin and Jungkook appeared in full military uniform, holding bouquets of flowers, standing at attention and shouting "Danjail." The Korean military cry meaning unity. The sound of ARMY's tears mixing with their screams of joy created a symphony of emotion that no one who was there will ever forget. And in his remarks to the media and the fans gathered that day, Jimin said, with a voice full of feeling, "From the COVID-19 pandemic to mandatory military service, it's been quite a long stretch of time. Thank you so much for waiting." That's all he said. But no one in that crowd could hold it together. Because in those few simple words lived everything that couldn't be spoken, the longing, the gratitude, and an unspoken promise. "I'm back. And I came back for you." Just a few days after being discharged, Jimin returned to Weverse, the platform that has always been the bridge between him and ARMY. And this time, he wrote something far deeper, far more personal. In a post on June 14th, 2025, Jimin wrote, "I feel like if I say I miss you too often, the meaning of those words might fade. That's why I can't say it so easily." Stop. Read that again. This is not an idol throwing out words to please his fans. This is a person who thinks carefully about every single thing he says, who holds the meaning of words so sacred that he's afraid of making them empty by repeating them too often. He continued, "I miss those times. I just want to be able to meet you and enjoy time together again." He also shared that after being discharged, he had a long conversation with RM, BTS's leader, and that both of them felt the same deep longing for ARMY. Namjoon and I talked about it for quite a while. We had just said goodbye. "I really do love you, ARMY." And there was one more thing he wrote, something that reveals just how enormous Park Jimin's heart truly is. When he watched Jhope's concert, his fellow BTS member who had been discharged earlier and was already back making music, Jimin wrote, "Watching Hobi's concert today made me so happy. If I could give you that kind of happiness someday, I would be so grateful." Think about this. A man who had just walked free from 18 months of military service, who must have been feeling the most overwhelming mix of relief and joy and emotion. And the first thing on his mind was how he could give happiness to someone else. Not about his own promotions, not about his career, but about you, about ARMY. This is why that makeup artist was afraid to stay. This is why millions of people around the world love Jimin, not just as an idol, but as a human being. ARMY, let's be honest with each other for a moment. In a world that is so often full of performance, where smiles can be manufactured and kindness can be staged, stories like these about Jimin feel like a breath of fresh air that we all desperately needed. A makeup artist who chose to walk away from her dream job because she was afraid her heart couldn't handle something too genuine. That is not just a funny or endearing little anecdote. That is real, living proof that there are people in this world whose goodness cannot be contained, cannot be faked, cannot be switched on and off depending on who's watching. And Jimin is one of those rare people. From the way he greets every single person on a film set, from the way he never complains even when conditions are difficult, from the way he wrote to ARMY from inside military barracks, from the way he thinks about giving happiness to others before he even thinks about himself. This is not about perfection. Jimin is certainly not perfect. No human being is. But there is something in him that is so authentic, so sincere, so deeply human, that anyone who comes into contact with his energy leaves feeling like the world is a little bit better than they thought it was. And maybe that is the greatest lesson we can take from all of this. Genuine kindness does not need a grand stage to leave a lasting impact. A real smile directed at a crew member in the background. A thank you that comes from the heart rather than habit. A small moment where you make someone feel truly seen and truly valued. Those things can leave marks far deeper than the greatest performance ever could. Jimin has proven that. Not on stage, but behind the scenes, in the moments where no camera was there to capture it. And now, ARMY, after everything we've talked about today, there is something wonderful waiting for all of us. With every BTS member completing their mandatory military service by mid-2025, the world is holding its breath for the return of the group that changed the face of music forever. BTS is expected to come back with a brand new album in 2026, and in the meantime, they've already begun filling the world with their presence again, writing to ARMY on Weverse, attending events, and showing that even after 18 months away, their passion never once dimmed. And through all of that excitement and anticipation, one thing has remained exactly the same. Jimin is still Jimin. The same person who made his makeup artist walk away because she was too afraid of falling in love. The same person who wrote to ARMY from inside military barracks. The same person who thinks about giving happiness to others before his own feet have even fully touched free ground. ARMY, I hope this video reminded you, even just a little, of why we fell in love with BTS, and especially with Park Jimin. Not only because of the way he dances, not only because of the way he sings, but because behind all of that is a human being who is genuinely, truly, extraordinarily good, in the simplest and most sincere way possible. May we all carry a little piece of that spirit into our own lives. If this video touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Maybe someone out there needed to hear this story today. And if you're an ARMY who has been following Jimin's journey for a long time, drop it in the comments. What is the Jimin moment that has moved you the most? I'd love to read every single one of your answers. Until the next video, take care of yourselves, ARMY. Purple Heart. We purple you.